Okay, we are now going to talk about partial payments. And the idea of partial payments is that these are situations where people take out a loan, but then they pay the loan off early. But they don't pay the whole loan, they pay like part of the loan off. They make a partial payment. And as it turns out, there are laws that says if someone takes out a loan and they pay back some of the loan off early, then the lending institution can only charge them interest over what remains on the loan. Okay, they can't charge them interest over the whole thing. And so using that, we're going to figure out how to solve one of these partial payment problems. So in this example, it says on February 12th, $1,300 is borrowed at 7.4% interest, and now the loan matures on November 3rd. Okay, but on July 17th, a partial payment is made for $800. So they're paying off part of that loan. And then they want to know how much is due when the loan matures. Okay, and the point here is on July 17th, when they make a partial payment, okay, the interest or the lending institution can only charge them interest over the remaining portion on the principal, over the remaining principal. Okay, so here's how to do one of these. I would draw a timeline. This just kind of lays the problem out and makes things a little easier to follow. So this is going to be the beginning of the year. So in this case, February 12th. Over here will be the end, not the beginning of the year. This is the beginning of the loan. This is the end of the loan, November 3rd. And then on July 17th, they make a partial payment. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just somewhere between there. We have July 17th. And what I do is I always write underneath that, I put how much the partial payment is for. Okay. And maybe I can zoom in a little bit here. So what we're going to need here is we're going to need the days of the year table, right? And we're going to have to find how many or what day of the year each of these dates are. So February 12th is the 43rd day of the year. So that would be 43. July 17th is, I can set this down here, July 17th is, looks like the 198th day of the year. And November 3rd. So November 3rd, that's the 307th day of the year, it looks like. 307th day of the year. And now what we're going to do is we're going to find how long each of these periods are. This is like the first half of the loan, the second half of the loan. Okay? This partial payment kind of splits the loan into two halves. So 198 minus 43 is 155. So from February 2nd to July 17th, there's 155 days. Okay, and then from July 17th to November 3rd, there's 109 days. Okay, actually did pretty good, didn't I, splitting that up? So now what you're going to do is you are going to figure out what happens during the first half of the loan, and we'll call that period 1. And then you got to figure out what happens during the second half of the loan, and that'll be, we'll call this first payment, and then this final payment. Okay, so first payment. What happens when you make that first payment? Okay, so what you have to do is calculate the interest that you owe from February 2nd to July 17th. So you're going to use this as your number of days. So I got 1,300. I have to pay interest over the whole principal here. And then I take the interest rate, write it as a decimal, and this period is 155 out of 360 days. Okay, and that's going to give me how much interest I owe on July 17th. Oops, see, look at that. My 0 sticks here. Okay. So it looks like $41.42. So $41.42. Okay, this is how much interest I owe on the loan. Okay, on July 17th. So now the question is, how much what's the total amount that I owe on July 17th? And so what you're doing here is you're just taking the 1,300, that's the amount you borrow, and then you're going to add the interest. So $41.42. So on July 17th, the amount that I owe would be $1,341.42. That's the amount that I owe on this day. So in other words, if I wanted to pay it off on July 17th, this is how much I would owe. Okay, so this is no different than what we've already been doing. Okay, calculate the interest, and then this is amount due. So now what you're going to do is you are going to find the remaining principal. Okay, so maybe I'll put a little arrow here. I call it RP, and so that's remaining principal. So the remaining principal is this amount that I owe. Okay, so I owe that much on July 17th. Minus the partial payment that I make. So I make a partial payment of $800. And the difference here, and I think it's $541.42, but let me just make sure. Yep. So $541.42. So what that means is this is how much I still owe on the loan. After I make my partial payment, I still owe this much on the loan. So that's the remaining principal. So the point is, when I go into this final period, okay, and I'm going to call that the final payment. Okay, during the second half of the loan, the lending institution can only charge me interest over what remains on the loan. And what remains is this amount right here. So when I go to calculate the interest this time, I'm not going to use the full amount. I'm going to use $541.42. And let's see here. So the interest is 0.074, and this time we have 109 days out of 360. So 541.42 times 0.074 times 109 divided by 360. So this interest here is $12.13. Okay, so that's how much interest I owe over this part of the loan. And so the final answer is how much is due when the loan matures. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the A now, but I'm going to use this here because that's the remaining principal plus this new interest right here, $12.13. So 541.42 plus $12.13, and I get $553.55, and that is the final answer to the question. That's how much I owe when the loan matures. Okay, so so you basically, this is your final answer, but the important thing is the whole procedure here, okay, is that you're learning how to deal with the partial payment. And the way you deal with it is you deal with it one pay period at a time. Each time they make a payment, you would have to deal with it separately, okay, especially if the time periods are different and the payments are different. So, and then you finally get this answer. So what we're going to do in the next video is I'm going to do another problem, but we'll have two partial payments, not just one. So stick around for that, and